Hello! My name is Michael Earth Osada. Thank you for coming into my life. I'm an unshakable optimist who believes in the future connection of a multicultural experience and our ability to build it together. My why is to inspire people to be emotionally free so we can truly express ourselves, be understood, and live in harmony. My mission is to shatter the image of degradation and replace it with the mode for developing opportunity. I lead people in emotional freedom by helping them find self-awareness so they can experience a whole and complete life of bliss. Within emotional intelligence, 30 steps to live a purpose-driven life is a pyramid beginning from the outside. Your first step is inside. Inside is your awareness to find. You must get to the top of the climb if you want the answers to your mind. Let me acknowledge one thing at the start of this video. You have to understand that you cannot control relationships. It's what both makes it the most frustrating and the most meaningful experience. You cannot control your relationships. So, what you have to do is find a way to be safe with them. Today, I want to talk to you about safety in relationships and why it's important if you want to get anywhere in life. Like, literally, your environment often determines the willpower you have to move forward and build momentum in your life so that you can go out and be able to achieve those things that you believe in, which will in turn become what you are doing. So I want to explain this in detail and lay out just a few cycles here about how you can be able to help overcome some of these challenges by better understanding the internal workings of them and then doing something about it. So first off, let's understand what safety and relationships actually are. So a relationship, what is a relationship? A relationship, I just came up with this, a relationship is actually a joint participation in the good of life. Meaning if we're both in this journey together, if we are both participating and being present, making the choice to have any interaction or engagement, to relate to each other, to have relation, then we are both joining together on this ship. In essence, we're going on this world journey together. We're riding on the same boat. So therefore, this relationship, we're going on this world journey. We're going to the next island, the next part of this world. We are setting sail on this together. A relationship is a joint participation in the good of life. That means together. Together is supposed to be better. Am I right? If together is not better, then you've got a problem with your safety in relationships. Your safety is compromised, right? Because what you have to understand here is that safety, mental and emotional safety, or any safety in general, safety is always about else, someone else. It has to do with your environment. It has to do with a situation or predicament that somebody else puts you in. You don't go out and meet a stranger who makes you feel unsafe because you don't know what they are going to do. They could very well hurt you, right? So you don't go and meet somebody on Craigslist without, like to check room for rent or something if you don't have the best feeling about this person. That's an odd example, but I'm looking at different things online right now, and that just happened to come across Craigslist. And it's always about else. Safety is always about else. It's always about the environment, those circumstances around you, right? Now, there is something about mental and emotional safety that's important. You have to be safe within your own home. You have to be safe within your own sense of self. You have to have the mental and emotional stability and the control within your own mind, within your own thought process, within your own heart, within your own body, to feel in alignment and in tune with what is good for you so that you're not feeling like you're being compromised by the external world. You have the internal locus of control, therefore the external locus of control doesn't override that, right? So that has to do with mental and emotional homelessness, which would be basically, not feeling connected to others, to the outside world for your betterment. Rather, your internal world is just completely deprived and you have no connection with the outside world. You're isolated. And if there's anything about isolation and pain and isolation, if you're in pain and you are experiencing pain on a consistent basis and nobody believes you, nobody wants to hear from you, nobody will acknowledge that pain, nobody understands you, that is going to be the most painful thing that you can ever experience, because nobody wants to tap into you. You can't tap into them. You're just stuck, alone, cold, isolated, and you have nowhere to go, nobody to believe in you. This is what causes suicide, folks. And you wonder why. Oh, I don't know why they did it. I don't know why they committed suicide. You wonder why. The most painful thing you can ever experience is pain and isolation. The anatomy of loneliness. Let's break that apart here, okay? So mental and emotional safety, there's a lot of things that go into this, but ultimately safety has to do with someone else within relationships. Now what I'm going to give notice to is, in this example, using the whiteboard, blue is going to be about community. It has to involve other people. Red is something that takes away or something you cannot control. In essence, something that is negative. Green is, identifying vocabulary or improving something, okay? And then black is just black. It's everything. Okay, so we have to understand that safety is about else. So how can we get into a place where we're establishing this safety for ourselves with someone else? Because it involves another character, right? This is about survival in some sense. So trust. What is trust? Trust, to trust someone, it's a verb, means I can rely upon you to capitalize upon my own best interests. Now let me say that again. I can rely on you to capitalize upon my own best interests. In other words, I can take you into account for being interested in what I want, for what will help me, for what will serve me, so that I can feel safe, right? So if you can have a relationship where you trust somebody else to capitalize upon your own best interests, to take that into account and actually have the genuine interest in being able to serve you in that way, in this relationship, a joint participation in the good of life together, then that person does the same for you, and they rely upon you to capitalize upon your own best interests. That's what's called a safe relationship, and it's very, very helpful to have a safe relationship, because if you don't have that, if you're within a household, let's say it's at your home, and you found one of those Craigslist advertisements and you moved in with this person and they're actually very abusive and you didn't know it, they're a freak, they're a weirdo and you didn't know it, and not saying freaks and weirdos are abusive, but crazy, let's say they're crazy, and they're so crazy that they hurt you greatly. Your environment is not safe. If your environment is not safe, oftentimes, if you are compromised in a way where you have repetitively felt unsafe, and you have repetitively been in a place where you are not in control of the environment and it is negatively inflicting upon you, your environment can actually be greater than willpower. So let me write that down. Environment becomes greater than willpower. I mean, just think of abuse. What is abuse? Abuse is taking advantage of someone or a situation just because you can. So I can abuse my power because in this situation, this circumstance, this condition, I'm able to. So I choose to, and I negatively inflict upon someone or something in a way that I can maintain this control that then takes away their own permission to have their own control. Right? So abuse is to take advantage of something because you can. So if you abuse your powers in your environment and you control somebody and the other person doesn't have control, then you therefore feel unsafe. And when you're repetitively conditioned to be hurt and conditioned to believe what that other person believes, basically, you don't have your own sense of self. You are being controlled and manipulated by someone else. And what this ends up doing is mentally and emotionally conditioning you to do things that do not serve you. In other words, that are not actually useful. They are not useful toward your betterment. So what is important to give note to is that if this continuously happens, then there are certain responses to trauma. Now I'm going to verse you very briefly on what these are. But basically, there's the fight or flight response to trauma, which is, like a deer running from a lion. You flight. You flee. Fight or flight. But can the deer fight back the lion? Sure, but it's not going to win. So a fight or flight response to trauma in a household, somebody comes at you and they piss you off and they say something very mean and it totally hurt you, and you can choose to leave, avoid the conflict entirely, or you can choose to fight them. Now that fight can be physical, it can be mental, it can be verbal, it can get to them emotionally. How you approach it, fight or flight response, right? Freeze or fawn. Now, if you've been conditioned mentally and emotionally for some time, and you are used to this abuse, but it's starting to break you down in a way that you have become accustomed to it, then freeze or fawn is more likely a response where you would literally freeze and not be able to make a decision, not be able to act on something. You just take the abuse, take someone screaming at you, and you don't do anything, and you just sit there. That's freeze. Fawn is a bit of a different response. Let's take a look at this. Fight or flight, freeze or fawn. And Pete Walker talks about this. These are classic examples of fight, flight, and freeze due to trauma. But did you know there's actually a fourth response? It's called fawn. It is a term coined by Pete Walker, a CPTSD survivor and licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in helping adults who are traumatized in childhood. Now, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And by the way, if you don't know, here, before I go into that, fawning is perhaps best understood as people-pleasing. According to Walker, who coined the term fawn as it relates to trauma, people with the fawn response are so accommodating of others' needs that they often find themselves in codependent relationships. On his website, he wrote, "Fawn types seek safety by merging with the wishes, needs, and demands of others. They act as if they unconsciously believe that the price of admission to any relationship is the forfeiture of all their needs, rights, preferences, and boundaries." Now, some classic signs of fawning. These behaviors may be especially prevalent when a survivor feels triggered or fearful. People-pleasing, being unable to say how you really think or feel, caring for others to your own detriment. Always saying yes to requests from other people, of course. Someone else, okay? Flattering others. Struggling with your own low self-esteem. Avoiding conflict avoidance, aversion. Feeling taken advantage of. Absolutely. And being very concerned about fitting in with others. So, because fawn types struggle to take up space and express their needs, they are more vulnerable to emotional abuse and exploitation. In abusive circumstances, abusers may suppress a survivor's fight or flight responses by threatening punishment, leading to the survivor's reliance on the fawn or freeze response. So, in other words, if you go away, you are in deeper shit. You are in trouble. You If you try and go away, you no longer have a place to live. If you try and seek help, if you try and ask somebody else to tell you what's going on in your relationship, you will be punished. Mercilessly unforgiving, this abuser will be. So, people pleasing is a common thing. Codependency is a common thing. These things come from the response to trauma in a way where your own sense of self becomes blended with somebody else. So what is this about else? What is this about trust, capitalizing upon your own best interest, having control, environment, willpower, being in a sense where you and your willpower are greater than your environment? That is what you want. That is what you need. And if you can switch this, if you can honestly say, my willpower is greater than my environment, then you are greatly healing, my friends. This is a major shift. But the problem is, we don't have control. When we are mentally and emotionally being abused and we're not healing from it, or we're not healed in some sense, we don't have control. And we cannot heal when we are constantly being conditioned. Our body's organs and systems are shutting down when we are in a state of fear, when we feel like we're being hurt, when we feel like we're not safe. We are literally in this state where our body shuts down and our organs start to not function appropriately, and then our gut starts to collect so much filth, and our gut is like the center of everything. If that gets plugged up, then it's going to affect your entire body, all of your organs, your entire system's health. And this has happened to me. So if you don't know my story, way back in college, I was 19 years old, or just turned 19, and I was taking a speech class in college, communications. And, at this time I had a giant red beard around my mouth. And this was a rash. It was disgusting because it was itchy, it was scaly, it was peeling, it was absolutely gross. And I had to cover it up with creams, I had to change my diet, and I had to do all the most absurd things just so that my outward appearance would look okay, when inside I had brain fog, I felt like I was dying, I had to drink coffee throughout the night, multiple cups to get an assignment done, I was procrastinating hardcore, I just didn't want it, man. I felt like shit every day. So going into this class to learn something that wasn't actually for me, this wasn't of my own sense of self. And it wasn't until I researched all of this that was on my face, which was called perioral dermatitis, that I discovered the connection between narcissistic abuse. I was a victim of this I found an article called ACONs, Adult Children of Narcissistic Abuse. My immediately family environment was abusing me, violating my boundaries and my sense of self, so that I would constantly be in a state of pain, doing things that I did not want. In other words, not having any state of trust. I was doing what was not useful. I didn't have control. My environment was greater than my willpower. And I didn't know how to live for myself. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to take care of myself. Somebody else was having me meet their needs, and I was becoming a slave to them because my boundaries were being violated and I didn't know how to put them up. It's like this. It's like, this is my brain, and somebody comes to poke my brain. Poke, poke, poke. And my brain was once this big. Now the bubble around my brain has shrunk to this big. And now it's encapsulated my brain because I keep getting poked. And then it's susceptible to manipulation, to reformation that I don't want, obviously, but I didn't know until I identified what was actually happening. The reason why I felt like I didn't have control was because I was a victim of narcissistic abuse. And I didn't have my own sense of self. All of the scraps of what made my soul complete had been peeled off like layers of my skin and being thrown behind me. And I remember writing a letter to somebody around this time period. Somebody I knew since I was a really young child. And I literally wrote this letter saying, like, I feel like I have to retrace my steps and pick up all the scraps that I left behind so that I can be and rebuild my identity in some sense. And that is so deep, because literally what's happening is if your boundaries are being violated, your own sense of self, and you're doing what is not useful toward your betterment in connection to the awareness of the rest of the world, in other words, in all your relationships, what is good for you and positive for others too, then, I mean, literally, you're not living your highest good life. You're degrading. You're healing. Healing is fractal. It's spiral. It's definitely not linear. It's cyclical, and this is a cycle. This is a cycle, and this is a cycle. If you repeat that cycle in a negative fashion, it's only going to get worse. If you repeat it in a positive fashion, it's only going to get better. So you have to catch the cycle. You have to acknowledge what the actual problem is. And I've written this many times. I've explained this multiple times. This is the signature thing that I teach, is recognizing this cycle. It's called the cycle of truth. At least I call it the cycle of truth. and in all relationships, it's the lesson in all relationships, the cycle of truth. It's identifying what the actual problem is that you are experiencing. What is the problem first? You have to acknowledge it to do anything about it. The problem is, I feel like shit. No, the problem is, my boundaries are being violated. The pain is, this makes me feel like garbage. I don't feel like I am myself anymore, and these scraps are being thrown away, and I don't know who I am, and I'm becoming sensitive to my own self. I can't even eat the foods that I used to eat. I feel like I have to go on a diet. I have to change everything that I'm doing just to be able to live, because I'm constantly being compromised by this other person who makes me feel like shit. And I don't quite know why it is, but I feel like shit around this person, and I'm going to have to change my diet just to make myself feel a teeny bit better. And the more I happen to change my diet, the more sensitive I'm also actually going to get, because the less healing I'm doing, the more I'm giving into the acceptance of my own sensitivities, the more I believe this current paradigm or this current reality of the life that I'm living. Therefore, I allow my gut to get even worse. I allow my whole body to get even worse, because I am content with what does not actually serve me, what is actually not useful toward my betterment. I don't have to be on this diet. I don't have to not eat grains, not eat sugar. It's okay. I can eat whatever I want. Not just vegetables. I was on the Candida diet, which is a yeast overgrowth. It was within my system. And literally what ended up happening was, what I ended up doing was I saw hope. The reason why I saw hope is because I identified what the actual problem was. And I said, oh my gosh, all of this pain, everything that I'm experiencing, wow, it's a lie. That's what the hope was. It's a lie. Everything that I'm experiencing is a lie. And then the solution was, what do I have to change to make this better? I no longer want to lie to myself anymore. I want to tell myself the truth. I want to have control. I want to take responsibility and do what is actually useful. I want to change my energy. Change your energy? Where's the power? The power is going from pain to hope. This is where the power is with the universe and everything. I explained this in my video, The Cycle of Truth. If you have not seen it already, please go check it out. It's the cycle of truth in all relationships. And of course, this is relative, but this is the universal lesson in your relationships, what your relationships are trying to tell you. If you take a moment and just realize this, just be still with this. Be still and know. It's all about relationships. Everything in life. It's all about relationships. A joint participation in the good of life. How do I interact with this plant? How do I interact with this person? This whiteboard? This marker? How are they complementing each other? How are they useful toward each other's betterment? Toward the highest good? The earth, Everything. The shoes, everything. It's all about relationships. So take that into mind. Change the energy from pain to hope, and then provide yourself with a solution. What was my big solution? After I found out that I was a victim of narcissistic abuse, I ended up doing research on chakras and stuff. I didn't learn much because within 2 weeks of that moment, I dropped out of my English class in college, which in turn had me drop out. The next day I came to college, I dropped out of all of my classes because I felt so good that one day. And then 2 weeks after that, I put in my 2 weeks notice for my job. And then 2 weeks after that, I moved out of the household and the environment that I was with. I regained control. I regained that sense of safety in my immediate environment, which in turn, what did this do? This allowed me to heal. It allowed me to heal, man. And it was so dang good, I tell you, because within 1 week, that candida, yeast overgrowth, candidiasis, that was within my stomach, within my gut, within my system, it flushed out, and I had the most disgusting, bloody shit with these roots that were dug into my gut, literally pull out of my digestive tract. And my poop was diarrhea for an entire week. 1 week after I moved in with somebody else that made me feel more safe. That wasn't constantly violating and inflicting pain, crossing my boundaries and my own sense of self. So what did I do? What was the real big solution here? Instead of constantly being triggered in a negative environment, something that was making me feel very, very, very bad, what did I do? I changed my energy about the situation. I saw things differently. I said, hey, everything that I've been through, it's good. But right now, I need to see this as good in a way that I can do better. I took personal responsibility, because responsibility, the connection between responsibility and meaning, is what you are looking for in living a purpose-driven life. The more responsibility you take, the more meaning you're going to be able to have, and you're going to be able to live out a purpose-driven life. So what did I say? The first thing that I learned is that how to be a leader. Because what brought me here to who I am today is how to be a leader. What does a leader do? A leader has to first learn to follow through with their own commitments. So I made a commitment. I am going to do what serves me, not what does not serve me. Right? I'm going to seek progress. What is progress? Feeling better. What makes me feel better? I'm going to do more of that. I'm going to motivate myself to control my life. I'm going to take personal responsibility. Okay? And I'm just going to keep pursuing this sense of responsibility that makes me feel good. What is progress? I'm going to track my results. I'm going to heal. I'm going to talk to myself on a camera and see how things go. And I healed at a rapid rate. I set that camera down. I came back to it later. But I healed at a rapid rate. Why? Because I took back my control. I took back my own safety in my own environment, my own immediate environment. I changed my energy within my internal environment, within my own health. And by changing my energy, it created a sense where I was no longer constantly being triggered by the immediate environment around me. Because if your environment around you is triggering you, of course you're going through that fight or flight response that is constantly making you feel degraded, diminished, denied of all of your own sense of self, your own life. And really, with this mental and emotional safety, it all has to do with your own sense of self, your own identity, right? Your ego in some sense. So your own identity is being violated. Your boundaries are being violated. They're being crossed over. So therefore, you constantly get triggered. If you stop getting triggered so much, maybe you can start to focus inward and start to heal. Identify what the frick is actually happening and going wrong. Otherwise, you just keep getting reframed by this abuser and you don't know what to do. So you have to be able to start to see things for yourself. Seek outside perspective. But you can't do that until you leave the environment, probably. And if you do, then there could be some sort of consequence. So do everything you can to reach out for help, but also listen to yourself. Most of all, listen to your heart. Allow yourself to tap into your own mind, not somebody else. Because if they're taking advantage of you, then they're doing it because they can. So you have to regain that control and have desire for what you do want. How do you do that in the beginning? How do you better understand what it is that you want? Because is it important to go contact or no contact with the situation that you're in if you're in an abusive environment? What you need to understand is that contact, if you keep talking to somebody that is an abuser, or let's just say it's your ex-boyfriend and you no longer want anything to do with them, but they keep texting you and they keep ringing up your phone, and you don't want that, but you haven't exactly blocked them, that's considered contact, right? You're keeping some sort of dialogue with them. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to talk to them at all. Is it worth it to go contact or no contact? This is the question. No contact is anything that is personal. You literally take personal out of the equation. You stop receiving letters from them, right? You stop talking to them on the phone. You stop seeing them in person. Anything that has personal in the equation. If they ask you a personal question, hey, how you doing? How's your family doing? You take that out of the equation. You make it strictly professional, right? Strictly professional. What needs to get done? That's it. No personal in the equation whatsoever. Or you just don't talk to them at all. That's what no contact is. So you need to know, do you want to go contact or no contact? What is better? It's probably better to eliminate that person from your life entirely, no contact, instead of just going professional, because they can, reach their filthy hands into you, rip out something in your professional life and ruin your entire life because, they ruin your reputation because they wanted to, because they could abuse, right? So you don't want that. So just go no contact. Avoid the situation at all costs if that's what you need to do. But how do you figure this out? You need to follow your heart. You need to listen to your heart from the start. Your heart center right here, what is it telling you? How do you feel? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel not so good? What do you not want in life? You see, because most people know what they don't want in life, but it's hard for them to figure out what they want. So what do you not want in life? This is the question. What makes me feel like shit right now? What do I not want? I mean, it's hard for me to come up with examples because I'm not hurting so much at all anymore. I've healed, What do I not want? I don't want my mother screaming at me in the car ride to high school every day. I don't want that. It doesn't feel great, honestly. I don't want the expectation that when she comes home that, because she happens to buy me groceries, that I'm supposed to have food for her ready when she comes home. No, I don't want that. Like, I made this food for myself. I don't want you to scream at me and slam the door because that's not something that I made for you. You shouldn't have this expectation. It's not actually useful toward my betterment. I need to take care of myself here. Thank you. What do I not want? I don't want, people constantly making me feel bad when I can feel so much better. Like, this is it. So if you need to get into your own sense of self, then you need to take care of yourself. You need to listen to what you don't want. Now, if you don't want that, then what you do want is the opposite. So you need to pay attention to your desires. Now, what is healing? Healing is doing the opposite of what is not useful to your betterment. In other words, what is doing useful for the good of yourself and a positive reflection of others. So, for the highest good, this healing is in essence truly expressing yourself so you can be understood. You're going from not want to want with your own desires. What is this doing? This is how you heal. You take the initiative. You make the decision. You start to take responsibility and control your situation, right? So healing, taking personal responsibility, allows you to heal. You're going from problem to pain to hope to solution. You are changing your life. Your own, the cycle of truth. This has to do with your personal truth. So let's write that down. Personal truth. This is an internal process. If you speak into this, literally, try this. Take your camera, record, say what the problem you're experiencing is, the pain that makes you feel, and then change that pain, change the energy by saying, this pain, what does it make me feeling? What do I not want? And then what do I actually do want? What makes me feel better? Now, if you see that and you're able to inspire yourself with hope and change the energy about the situation, being grateful for what you don't want so that you can have more of what you do want, then you can come up with an actual tangible solution internally as well as externally, right? You come up with a solution on camera. I feel like, it'd be good to move out. And I feel like moving out would make me feel like I can, start living my life again. Now, that's an internal solution. So after that, you rewatch it on film, you play it back. You literally replay, that camera, that footage, and then you write a review. You review it, right? Playback, review, and then you write an actual tangible goal. What are the steps I need to take with this solution to move out, to go no contact, to make my life better? And that's a new problem. So you go through this cycle again, emotionally, mentally, and you keep doing it with every new problem. And you reprogram your mind by healing, taking personal responsibility, which in turn ties into meaning, which helps you live a life of purpose, right? We're all trying to live a purpose-driven life. We're all trying to find our calling. This is how you do it. You take personal responsibility. You heal, you grow, you improve, you do what's actually useful for the betterment of yourself and the world. And eventually, if you do this enough, you will learn what your purpose is in life, and you will go out and do what is actually useful, your calling. You will live in your calling, what you're meant to be doing on this earth, what God dreamed when He breathed into you, the cells that He made you out to be. You will find that. But you got to heal first. There are no shortcuts. You think you're going to be sold this product, this online course, and you're going to get all the results and you're going to get your answers from somebody who's not healed, who hasn't taken their personal responsibility, who hasn't walked their talk, but they happen to make this course. They're not living in integrity. They're not a leader who has first learned to follow their own lead. Follow your lead. Follow through with your own commitments first. Okay, do that enough, and you will be doing what you are meant to be doing. And then you can go out and serve the world just like me. Changing the world like it's your destiny because you're meant to be doing it. Speak, present, self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm presenting just like I was in college and everybody was blown away because I was hitting them harder every day in communications class. You better wonder because there's something to discover. I'm a rapper, given talent. And I'm also seeking balance. I'm writing on the whiteboard so you can learn, heal, progress, and understand your own process. That's right. I can freestyle because I'm creative. And the more creative you are, happens to do with the less resistance you have. The less resistance you have has to do with healing. The more creative your energetic flow can be. How do you do that? This is how. It's called an ad talk. It's a process. We can integrate it into community. Hashtag ad talk. And what is this? It's called an awareness documentation. So when you make an awareness documentation and you play it back or review it and then write a written review, and then that written review is posted, you use this hashtag, okay? Let's start a movement together. And what is this? Here's what it is. It's vlogging for healing. It's a modern movement. Building community. Now, I did this hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. I did this cycle of truth thousands of times to become who I am. You can do it too. What I have, who I am, it's within your reach. You just got to learn how to think for yourself. What does this develop for you? Critical thinking. In other words, how to think for yourself and draw your own conclusions. Love yourself. How to love yourself. This is important. Because your boundaries aren't being violated, you can go from problem, pain, hope to solution immediately. You immediately know what to do when you experience a problem in your relationships, right? Because what you are effectively doing is you are allowing your pain to redirect you toward hope and a solution. You're doing what you do want. Now remember what trust is. To trust is, I can rely upon you to capitalize upon my own best interests. You have to understand that trust is not earned. You're probably in a relationship dynamic right now where you're having to do things that are out of your way. You're people pleasing, just like we said, codependency. Yeah, you're living for somebody else's dreams in life. So when I was in college, for example, I was doing drywall and taking business classes. I was doing this, gaining experience for my uncle's business, which was drywall. And I'm a 5'5" guy. You know, I'm not exactly super strong. I'm athletic, but that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And I was taking these classes so that I could live out owning his business, which wasn't my dream. And I didn't know that. But my family is like, hey, this is your best route and chance of success. You should do this. So consequences come with that. In essence, you know, trust is given. It's not earned. I don't have to earn your trust. I don't have to, you know, go and take this class in order for you to feel like I'm good enough. Like, no, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything for worth. You already are worthy. Understand this. Worth is inherent. You don't have to do anything. You were worthy as a baby when you sat on your ass and were fed applesauce. And you were taken care of and you were brought up and you were raised. You didn't have to do anything for that. You were already worthy. You're worthy to be born into this world. Your mere existence is worth. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Understand? Okay. Now love. Love has everything also to do with trust. Why? Because if you trust yourself to capitalize upon your own best interests, if you rely on yourself to be a leader, to follow through with your own commitments, right? To engage in yourself in a way that is actually useful. If you trust yourself, then you are effectively loving yourself. To love is to take something as a part of yourself. You're taking all these aspects of yourself, the ones that are good, the ones that are negative, and you are integrating them from pain to hope. You are transforming them toward the highest good. You are healing. And you're acknowledging your weaknesses, and you're also acknowledging your strengths. And you're growing in what? What? Self-awareness. Self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Oh, this is funky. Self-awareness is, at its finest, accepting your shortcomings while accentuating upon your strengths and making your decisions based on the openings in between. Ha! As you grow in your self-awareness, not only are you going to figure out everything you're meant to be doing, your calling, right? But you're also going to improve your mental health. Your mental health has everything to do with relationships. That will improve, along with what? Your emotional intelligence. In which case, your emotional intelligence is totally, totally bad right now. So we're going to say because you don't have emotional intelligence, you're being stupidified into believing other people's bullshit, which is totally hurting you, and you're living a life of lies. You're not living for yourself. You're not loving yourself. You're not taking, something as a part of yourself. And that also has to do with loving somebody else, walking with them through the fire. Now, if you knew what was not good for you, you would probably not want to walk through the fire with somebody else who is intentionally trying to burn in hell, right? If it makes you feel better, there is a better path. So you can go through the fire with somebody, or you can wade through the water. Can I wade in your water? Can I wade in your water? Can I wade in your water? Come on, can I catch a wave? You can do that, right? So your emotional intelligence will improve. You'll be able to read and better understand people, interpret what it is that they're saying, doing, how they're trying to connect with you. All this is improved when you do Cycle of Truth through the process of awareness documentation. It's a repeatable system. Now, to love yourself, you also want to love others, to take them as a part of yourself. But, that's what love is, to take something as a part of yourself. But right now, you need to love yourself. Take all those positive and negative aspects of you within your pain that is trying to show you what your actual desires are, so that you can in turn grow and become a better human being. Let this desire serve you, please. My gosh. Okay? Develop your own sense of self. Your own sense of self by loving yourself and connecting that to self-awareness. Please. Love yourself. This is all about love. All of this is love. This entire thing. It's a cycle of love. Please. Allow love. 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 This is all love. Love yourself. Okay? Heal. This is very important. Being yourself among someone else. When you love yourself, you can be able to do this. And then you can start to take others as a part of yourself. You can start to embrace that environment. But you have to go through the self-healing process first. Enough of that before you start doing the emotional reflection method, which is starting to connect with community, really value others for their own points of view, and then take their perspective, their values, their opinions, and things that, help you feel appreciated of yourself. You're going to help integrate that into your integrity and become what you value in them. You're going to start to admire people and start to grow because you see value in them, which is also you. Everything that you're seeing has to do with some sort of sense of separation, and you're trying to become one with it, right? You're not seeing the world in separation anymore, but you need to also separate. Duality in the spiritual term, you need to be separate before you become one and integrate and love yourself and take all parts of yourself into account and heal and become whole and complete, right? This essence, this oneness is lacking in nothing. When you are in whole completion, you're healed, all that. It's good. It's very good for you. So how do we do this? How do you be yourself among someone else? Once you're able to love yourself more and be yourself among someone else, be authentic. All this has to do with authenticity. All this critical thinking, all of this healing, you're just listening to yourself. You're becoming more authentic, right? You're not lying to yourself. You're living in your truth and you're pursuing your purpose. That's what this is, okay? And this is the spiritual journey, spiritual growth journey. This is what spirituality is. And its deepest essence is authenticity. Not the deepest, but basic foundation. This is what spirituality is. And that's why it's hard when you listen to religious people and they're not living out those practices. This is why religion is such a big issue, because oftentimes it has to do with somebody trying to control you, a situation, how you act, the way you interact, how you feel about what it is that you're doing. And often it's not very useful to be doing these things. That's why spirituality, authenticity, if you want to be spiritual, pursue authenticity as your practice, because religion is based around rules, it's based around terms, it's based around obligations. It's a very strict confine, and it's like the secondary structure to what spirituality is that people end up using and coining and making into a thing so that they can control people, control the population. And now, things are very big today with social media and all that. That's a completely different story. The government, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to really get into it, but that's why religion is such a touchy topic. So, pursue spirituality, because that's important. And be yourself among someone else. Be content with who you are. That's what this is all about. If you can be yourself among someone else, the highest, truest expression of yourself, then you're literally going to be walking in your calling. You're going to be living a life of bliss, because bliss is the activation of the function of potential. That's what you're doing here with this critical thinking, following the cycle of truth, doing an ad talk a day, which helps keep the doctor away through your self-healing process, going through the emotional reflection method, connecting with other people, building your own values, your own integrity, your own intentions, and taking these relationships to a new level where you are living out the freedom journey, which is in turn helping you identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, your gifts, your talents, your abilities that make you who you are, and help you follow your calling and living out what you are to be in your integrity and alignment with the world through how you're being, just being, the freedom journey. So I'm not going to leave you with just philosophy and information. Hopefully this helped you. All of this is practical if you actually do it. If you listen to yourself, you'll be able to find the solutions on your own. That is the point of all of this. And that's why I'm giving you actual solutions. So here is a solution for you. If you haven't already, there is a group that I have that I want to be able to invite you to. But before I invite you to that and tell you a bit more about what that might look like, I want you to understand this. This is quite important. It's called the social contract. And the social contract is what is going to help you, better understand a healthy filter for relationships. And it's actually what is used with this group and the people you'd be connecting with. So the social contract is this. Number one, I am responsible for my own emotions. Can you say that? Repeat it back and accept the awareness, accept the awareness and responsibility of it for me, please. I am responsible for my own emotions. Okay? I'm in agreement with you. So we're connecting on this together. It's the social contract for a reason. We're both agreeing to this. And it's very likely that with all these agreements, you're already in acknowledgement and awareness of it. You just haven't come into agreement with taking the personal responsibility to do it, right? To follow through with that commitment for the world, for yourself, for me, whom you're agreeing to this with, for the community that you will be entering, that will permit you to have the safety to be able to express yourself, to be yourself among someone else. Because what you'll realize is that once you get to do that, once you can be yourself among someone else, then you can start focusing on your own betterment. What it is that would make you, be doing what it is you're meant to be doing. What's the next level? What's the next thing? What is this growth? What is going to make me feel better? Once you have that safety and you can be yourself among someone else, those mental and emotional boundaries, have been set. and you're well taken care of, you at least have a place to start. And oftentimes it's not that we're afraid of starting; it's that we're afraid of being seen starting at the bottom, right? So this place, this community, is going to be a place that allows you to be vulnerable. It's going to allow you to express your truth, your pains. People are going to be open and receptive and acceptant of who you are, what you're going through, and if you need any feedback, that they'd be willing to help, or just listen to you, and you're going to continuously grow with this community. So the social contract allows for that. Number one, I am responsible for my own emotions. I'm not going to write this down because it's a lot. Number two, I am willing to improve and accept feedback. If you can agree to this, then not only can you give and be in service of, but you can also receive. And this has everything to do with what this arrow is here, is being in a service-based mentality. If you're not in a service-based mentality, then you're going to be more involved with the self. And that's going to be selfish, right? You don't want to be selfish if you're trying to grow and heal, because, if you continue to take your own personal responsibility and control things, you're not going to care for the rest of the world. You cannot be separate. You have to unite with the world and see it as good, to love the world, to start to take it and other people as a part of yourself, and grow in this sense of love for yourself, community, others, and just be whole, with everything, taking everything into account. This allows you to be selfless. So this is very important. Selflessness is what you're going toward in everything you're learning. So this is what you will be learning throughout the whole process, how to love yourself and others. In essence, when you're in relationships, it's like, I can have my cake and eat it too. I can have myself and I can have you too. That's what this is teaching you. So number two, first one is I'm responsible for my own emotions. Number two is I'm willing to improve and accept feedback. That is on an equal wavelength. We're both agreeing to this, right? Number three is I will communicate to connect with people so I can be understood. Now, let me explain this. The social contract says this because I will communicate to connect with people so I can be understood. A lot of people communicate, not many connect. If they're just communicating at you and not communicating to connect with you and hear you out, understand you, and take you as a part of themselves, it's likely toxic behavior. You don't want that, right? So in that essence, if it's toxic, it's so I can be understood that will help you heal, because you don't need to take their feedback if it's negative, right? If they have an invalid opinion and they're pressing it upon you, they're violating your boundaries, your sense of self, it doesn't help you feel safe. They are in terms else and they don't have the trust. You don't have the trust in that relationship. So see other people in your relationships with the social contract here, these three agreements. So far, there's also a fourth, but this one is I will communicate to connect with people so I can be understood, right? So if you're doing that so you can be understood, you're helping yourself heal. Now, communicate to connect with people so I can be understood. There's also the opposite. And the opposite of I can be understood and communicating to connect with other people is, like, you don't want to be in a place where you're also trying to people please, right? So if it's so I can be understood, the opposite would be so we can be understood. In essence, you want to be selfish, but you also want to communicate to connect with people, which is about we. This selfishness translates to selflessness when you're trying to be in service, correct? But you also want to respect and love yourself and have your own boundaries so that you can be able to grow together. So it's we can be understood when there's collaboration. You're moving toward collaboration, away from separation and love of the entire universe. But first it starts with yourself. So that's why you have to, so I can be understood. Communicate to connect so I can be understood. Because if you do we and you have that as your equation for healing, truly expressing yourself so you can be understood. It has everything to do with it. So you don't want to people please. You don't want to be codependent. You want to agree to number 3. I will communicate to connect with people so I can be understood. Can you acknowledge, accept that in your awareness and agree to it with me, please? Okay, awesome. So number 4 is an acceptance of this family. I will also raise someone else. Now, the original agreement for this was an acceptance of this training. I will also train someone else. That's because you have to be willing to give and receive, but I also want you to help in growing the family of this community. So if you're going to join, it would be great if you can invite one person with you. You can do it at a later time. That's okay. The idea was for it to be immediate, but if you can invite one person when you join immediately, that would be wonderful. Somebody else who needs to go on a healing journey, who wants to be their authentic version of themselves, who wants to learn, what their purpose is in life, invite them when you join. And they can invite somebody else and agree to the social contract with us. And we can create a worldwide one human family, right? That would be lovely. So in acceptance of this family, I will also raise someone else. You're joining a family. You're joining a community that is willing to love and take you as a part of themselves, even though you're not our blood. So we welcome you wholeheartedly. Just understand that, we're all raising each other. And when you agree to this, we're all raising each other. We're all growing and loving each other. It's all a process. We're starting from the bottom. And it's okay to be at the bottom. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have pains. It's okay to be unique, to feel like you have something that is so unbearable that nobody would understand. We got you. We understand, okay? And we want to welcome that. So, number 4, in acceptance of this family, I will also raise someone else. If you learn something, share it. It could be a benefit to somebody else. In essence, you're documenting instead of creating what you're not. You're loving and falling in love with the process of your healing and being the best version of yourself you can be. What more could we ask for, right? So that's where this comes into account. You're growing the one human family with us by being your most authentic version of yourself. And this is about staying true to the vision of unity while exercising our own unique individual identities. So we want this for you, and we love you. So if you agree to the social contract, whether or not you do, that's up to you. This is a filter for healthy relationships. It's going to help you set boundaries and see your life in completely different eyes, and just interact with people who are positive for you. But it's also an agreement to join the community, join the family, and acknowledge your own personal responsibility in mode evolution operation, uniting all nations. It is our method for developing opportunity, the social contract. The name of the actual group, which I will highlight, when you agree to all these, cha-cha, 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 which is a very simple commitment to make. You are bound as a family member. You don't break that because it's already within your awareness. You're just making a commitment to it. If you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. But you are always bound within the social contract, whether you like it or not. You acknowledge that problem and you chose to confront it. So you're always welcome in the family. But if you do anything that's really, really bad, well, consequences happen. So just understand that you're welcome, you're loved, and we want you. So the name of the group, you don't have to agree immediately to join, by the way, but once you do, you're totally in this mission to grow with us, and you're here to change the world. You're taking responsibility for that. So you can join, but when it's official, then we're going to change the world together as a family, as a team. Like, it's going to be incredible, people. Motivation to speak into emotional freedom. This is the name of the group. Of course, there are no contracts. You know, you're living by your own contract. You're living by your own rules. So this is a contract for everybody. We're meant to unite the one human family, the family of truth. This is what I am doing. This is my mission. If you join the Facebook group called Motivation to Speak into Emotional Freedom, this is where we have a growing community, and I hope to see you helping it be a prosperous, loving community for everyone else soon. There will be more call to actions for different things that I would love to be able to share with you. For one example, actually, I'm just going to end it here. No, I'll mention that there's also something called the Altar Business Ministry. The Altar Business Ministry. It's better to mention it than to not. Altar stands for Accountable Leadership Transformation Authentic Realization Business Ministry. The altar is within you. It is within your body. Your body is your temple. Your body is the universe. So I am in the universe. The universe is in my body. The universe and I combine together as one. When you have the altar within yourself, you come up, what you do, it is already within yourself. You sacrifice daily. You know, every day is a death, a small death and a rebirth of a cycle of shedding, you know, touching the spirit and killing the crime to the dark side of your life. Literally confronting the darkness and facing the fear and resolving your pain so that you can live a life of freedom. That's what you're doing. Every day you're making a sacrifice at the altar, whether you like it or not, somehow, some way. Hopefully you're growing. And here it's our business to do that. It's our business to go out and serve in ministry, which is basically, you know, helping meet other people's needs who actually need them. And we are doing this in a way where we're also growing and getting paid. In a sense, I don't get paid for what I do, I get paid for who I am. So where authenticity speaks in all of this, we are creating a movement for not only emotional freedom, but spiritual freedom as well. We're helping liberate people because it's not about roles anymore. It's about souls. You make a difference whether you want to or not, because together we stand united in our unfolding. I unite souls before I show them their role. Because we have one life audition and the world is our stage, we must not forget to include the audience. For we aren't ready until we start a lifelong party. Right? So this is the forefront of what it is we're doing, ABM, the Altar Business Ministry. And by taking part of that, you know, you get to be at the center of the movement, and you get to be a collaborator in collaboration of all of this. Because we're moving from competition. This is important. I'll write this down too. We're moving from competition to cooperation to collaboration. And what does this all have to do with separation? I mean, what does this all have to do with our lives? Separation. And what do we have to do? Integrate it. Integrate that separation into a collective perspective. What does that mean? This is all about love in relationships. That's right, I said it. Love in relationships. Love yourself. Be yourself among someone else and love them too. I can have myself and you too. I love you with my heart, with my soul, with every fiber of my entire being. You know what I want to say? What is up, beautiful soul? People of the world, can I get a family? From all humans I meet, we're familiar, as though we're all familiar. I said familiar, as though we're all familiar. The motive of familia sends its regards. Mode evolution operation, uniting all nations. I love you. Please don't forget to take care of the world. Okay. Published in the 21st century by microlith Osada, just so you can't see your agreement to come in peace is what makes this a safe place for all of us to breathe.